Joining me now is the Bellator MMA bantamweight champion who defends his title for the very first time against Leandro Higo in the Bellator 195 main event on March 2nd. It is Darrion the Wolf Caldwell here on the show. Again, Darrion, how are you? Thanks for the time.
I'm great, man. How about yourself?
Doing really well. Thank you very much for asking, and really appreciate you taking the time just a week or so out from your first title defense. So you, of course, won the title back in October with a decision win over Eduardo Dantas. What has these past few months been like as a champion?
They've been great, man. A little bit more notoriety, but in the same instance, nothing's changed. I got a lot of work to do. The goal is always to be a better version of yourself, better than your last fight. So, I've been putting the plays together. So when it comes March 2nd, you're going to see a better Darrion Caldwell.
So your mindset that you have going into fights hasn't changed, even though you have that gold belt around your waist?
Not at all. I've had a savage mindset since, since forever, since I was a little boy. Wrestling, so that never say die attitude, I'm willing to go through that fire, what are you willing to lose, what are you willing to give up for a world championship? Are you willing to give up that extra meal, are you willing to sacrifice those extra pounds, what are you willing to do to separate yourself from the rest? And I'm always willing to do that.
Now, in the past, we've seen some champions in the UFC and in Bellator sort of just get not tired of defending their title, but it's such a repeated process where it does get a little tiresome. I mean, for example, I know when GSP walked away a few years ago, one of the reasons was he just had defended the title so often, it was sort of just same old. That's why someone like Demetrius Johnson deserves so much credit. Have you given that much thought? Just what if you end up going on 7 title defenses in a row? Are you worried about it just sort of feeling same old and having to deal with that pressure?
Not at all. That's not something that goes through my mind. I love to compete. I love to fight. So anytime I get a chance to showcase my abilities, it is a win for me. I'm always looking forward to scrapping. So I can never get tired of doing this, until the gas is on empty and literally the tank can't, the car can't perform. I'm willing to go out and give it all I got.
In your last fight, when you were not the champion, you were the challenger, you were taking on Dantas, did you feel any added pressure, or do you think it might have been on him because he was defending, you were trying to take what was his, which you did, of course. Was there any extra pressure on you for that fight?
Not necessarily, never. Dating back from high school, I won a state championship my sophomore year, Next year, there's no added pressure as a junior. Again, there's no added pressure as a senior, I don't think there's any added pressure on you, I don't think it was any added pressure on him defending his title, I just feel like he knew he was outmatched, and when we got in that cage, he felt, the difference in me as opposed to anyone else he fought. So I can never get bored of this.
And I assume that's the same thing, you said you don't feel like Eduardo had any pressure going in on him going into that fight. I assume it's the same for you going into your first title defense, as you talked about already.
Absolutely. There's no pressure. Yeah, there's no pressure, man. This is what I do. This is, how I provide for myself and how I showcase my abilities, to show the fans, who's the best bantamweight in the world. So if I was to ever get tired of it, I wouldn't do it, and so I don't see that ever happening until the wheels fall off, man.
How much did you know about Leandro Higo when you got the call to fight him?
Well, I've watched him a few times. I've been to his fight, against one of my former teammates, Joey Miola, in RFA when he fought him for the title there. He choked my buddy out. I left a sour taste in my mouth. I definitely want to get my hands on this guy. I seen him fight against Eduardo Dantas, being that I was supposed to be fighting that fight. God said, this is your time right now. So I watched that fight. I watched him fight Baby Joe in the back when I was warming up for Eduardo Dantas. So For me, he doesn't pose any threats that I don't see day in and day out, So he's just going to be another body to the list of wins that I get once this career is all over.
Do you find it interesting to look back on last year or so when you couldn't take the title fight and he ended up getting the Dantas fight, as you mentioned, the one where you ultimately deserved it, you got it afterwards? Is it kind of interesting looking back and seeing he didn't succeed, but you did? You're the champion now. At the time, he was fighting for the title. You were sort of on the sidelines, and now you sort of surpassed him and Dantas, of course.
I think it just happens, I think his time was then, I think at the time he was given that title shot, and he wasn't successful, and now he's given another one. He's going to be unsuccessful again. I think I don't really see him as a threat, to beating me. I'm training like this guy is John Jones, but I'm looking for a war, but I don't see him. I don't really see him, to be honest. I'm going to blow through this guy.
You mentioned that Higo beat one of your former teammates on the RFA promotion. Have you? I know you don't train with this person anymore, but have you talked to him since that fight, or since this fight was announced and leading up to it? Sort of just, hey, just casually, told him you'll avenge that loss for him, or have you had any conversation with him?
No, I haven't talked to him. I think Joey knows me as a competitor and as an athlete. He knows I'm going to go out there and get the job done. So I can care less about asking people, oh, what does this guy do? What do I need? That's not me. I'm different from all these guys. And so, with that being said, fight night March 2nd, I'm gonna put a stop on this guy.
Have you been impressed with Higo's 2-fight run? Of course, he debuted against Dantas, as we mentioned. He lost that fight, close decision, and then he is coming off a win over Joe Tamanglo, someone who you're 1-1 against, of course. Have you been impressed with Higo's run, or not so much?
He's doing a good job for himself, He's a scrappy dude, He wants to, fight. So if that's what he wants to do, I'm gonna give him a fight on March 2nd.
Stylistically, what matchup do you find more difficult for you, the Dantas fight from October or this one?
None of them, honestly. I think Dantas is probably a little bit more gifted than he is, a little tougher than he is. So he proved that, in Budapest. So I know, obviously, he poses different threats, but that's for my coaches to work on and put me in the positions that I need to be for this fight. So come fight night, I'll be ready to go, man.
What's your biggest advantage against Leandro Higo?
My biggest advantage is that I'm me. He's not as explosive. He's not as long as I am. He doesn't have as much power as I do. He's not as fast as I am. The list can go on. The difference is he's just not me.
Someone wanted me to ask you if we're going to see another suplex against Higo, because of course that's sort of citing your last win over Dantas. We saw a big suplex. Are we going to see another one?
Absolutely. If this guy gives me his back, he's going to get suplexed. He's going on his neck.
It's been a while since you picked up a finish victory. Of course, you've had two since your last one, which came in March 2016 against Joe Warren. Of course, at the time, your biggest win of your career, most likely. Do you want to go for the finish more than usual in this fight? I mean, every fighter in every fight wants to get a finish. That's just natural. But do you want to go for one more than usual?
Absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, my record is kind of broken. People see probably 11-0 or 11-1, 12-1 or whatever. But for me, I'm more like 5-7. I'm pissed about it because whenever I don't get a finish, that's a loss in my book. Mentally, I'm pissed. So, despite what anybody else thinks or feels, me not finishing the job is definitely a loss for me. And so I'm not going to go out there and lose this fight.
So then, what were your thoughts after your last win? Of course, you won the Bellator title. You seemed to be very happy, but you didn't get the finish. Were you satisfied with the win just because it had the Bellator title attached to it?
Absolutely. I wasn't satisfied with my performance. Again, that's a loss for me. But to have a belt around my waist, is everything I imagined it to be. So look for me to go out there and take this guy's head off.
So back in 2016, so it's been a little while already, but the reason I'm asking you about this is because it's been a while, you've been able to get adjusted. You, of course, moved to Alliance MMA down in California. How has that move been? We talked about it briefly when it just happened, but now that you've had more than a year to let it sink in and get adjusted to your new training partners and the new facility and all that, do you look at it as a career-changing move? How much better have you been since moving to Alliance?
I've gotten so much better, since being here. My previous gyms didn't really have champions here. Here we have champions. We got Phil Davis, who's been a national champion. He's been a Bellator champion. Both things that I wanted to accomplish. So looking over at Phil, grinding hard every day. It was like, man, that you really just put a stamp on. You can do this. You got the right people around you that's in your corner. So if this is something that you really want to do, then this is the place to be. You got your Dominic Cruzes and Jeremy Stevens and Justin Lawrence. Guys are scrappy and just encyclopedias to this MMA world. They know the ins and outs, the rounds and the bouts. So to have guys like that in my corner, coaches like Eric Del Fiero, Nick Piedmont, Adrian Melendrez, it's everything I imagined it to be and everything that I wanted.
As the Bellator bantamweight champion, what are you looking to achieve during this title run, however long it lasts? Are you looking to become the winningest Bellator bantamweight champion, most title defenses, maybe most in Bellator history? You want to become the most popular Bellator fighter? What's your main goal with the belt?
My main goal is to be the biggest Bellator fighter in the world ever. For people to be like, okay, when you talk Bellator, you're talking Darrion Caldwell. You're not talking about Joe. You're not talking about Schmo. You're not talking about Rick. You're not talking about Dick. You're talking about Darrion Caldwell when you mention Bellator. So,
how do you plan on accomplishing that? Is it just a matter of the most title defenses, or not necessarily the most, but a lot? Or is it things you do outside the cage, building your brand? How do you plan to become the biggest Bellator fighter ever?
It starts in the cage, that's my platform, and, obviously it leaks over outside the cage, but just being myself, I'm not here to change for anyone. I'm here to show everybody, the charismatic Darrion Caldwell, the fighter Darrion Caldwell, the entrepreneur Darrion Caldwell, and when I do that, things will grow with that.
So you don't necessarily want to be Bellator's Conor McGregor. You just want to be Darrion Caldwell.
I'm better than Conor McGregor.
Well, Darrion, Bellator 195, you're taking on Leandro Higo in the main event in your first bantamweight title defense. Prediction time, how do you get the job done?
Either way it goes, this guy's going to be asleep. If he's not asleep, he's tapping. He's going to be stiff as a dick on Viagra, baby.
Darrion, thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. Before I let you go, remind my audience where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man, I'd like to thank all my sponsors, Bad Boy Brands, More Than the Fuel, American Ethanol, 9 Fibers, Sunglasses, Healthy Mama Meal Prep, Real Holistic Living, Dr. Scott, Alliance MMA Gym. You can find me at Instagram and Twitter, Darrion, or The Wolf MMA. Again, that's The Wolf MMA. And then I also got fan pages, The Wolfpack New Jersey, so The Wolfpack NJ, and my fan page on Facebook just got up and running. Darrion the Wolf Caldwell. You can catch me there. You can catch me on Facebook, my personal Facebook, / or regular / or however they do it at Darrion Caldwell. But that's pretty much it. Check me out. I've got a lot of fight left in me. I really just got started. Most guys don't become champions at such an early age. I was a champion at 29, and I'm going to keep the belt for another 10 years, man.